Hello there YouTube. So this video will be documenting my second kit guitar build. There were two things that really drew me towards this kit. The fact that it was HSH pickup configuration, as I've not had that on any of my guitars, and the unique shape of it. I really struggled to find a guitar that this thing was based off of. I did eventually, in the beginning, call it my ESP style kit build, but it wasn't really that close to an ESP style guitar. So in the end, I named it SBH II. The body and neck are made from maple. I can't say for certain what the fretboard was made out of because the listing has gone down. Do, however, know that it has a 10-inch radius and a 25.5-inch scale length. This guitar went through multiple design changes, mainly to the finish, as you will see shortly. So I'm going to switch over to the slideshow and voiceover mode, and it's starting with everything the kit came with.
Here we have everything the kit came with. I wasn't really feeling the black hardware for this build, so I didn't end up using any of this. Then the kit arrived, and the first thing I did was check the neck joint, which thankfully was a really good fit. The fretboard was severely dehydrated, however the frets themselves are actually pretty decent for such a cheap kit. After this, I started marking out all the holes I needed to drill, as none of them were done on this kit. Started with the pickup surrounds, then the Tremolo claw screws, the strap lock positions, and then I marked out an additional control hole and the switch screw holes on the outside and the inside of the cavity.
As this needed a 5-way blade switch, which is completely new to me because as you've seen with my current guitars, 3-way toggle switch is about as far as I've got. So because of the pickup configuration as well, I decided to do something you don't normally see. For the humbucker positions, so in the neck of the bridge, I went with EMGs. For the single coil in the middle, I managed to find, for an absolute steal off Amazon, a single coil Seymour Duncan Blackout. And so I already had all the pickup wiring, so all I needed was a switch. Now they do have full conversion kits, full strats, so 5-way switch, pickup wires, parts, everything. But all I needed was the switch, the output, and the battery wires. Found the EMG Strat switch on their website, so obviously I needed to find a UK supplier. Thankfully, that's where Anderton's Music Company came in. They had one in stock, but I needed to check that what it stated on the website for EMG was physically in the package. The person on the phone transferred me from there to the person on the shop floor, and I said to him, look, I really need to know if it comes with a green wire and a red and black wire for the battery. They said, yep, it's got all that, so I placed my order. Once the order was placed, start looking into the wiring for this particular switch. Now, as it's a Strat switch, it comes standard wiring is master volume, neck, and middle tones. I wasn't really feeling that. I mean, it's a HSH pick guitar, the shape of the body, and master volume, master tone would probably work better for me. That's when I discovered the EMG AB Afterburner. Now, this is a push-pull part that when you pull it up, and it's at full detent, it adds 20 decibels of extra gain. It's very similar to my PA2 gain boost, whereas this one was a lot easier for me to understand, which, by the way, I did figure that one out, and now that works the exact same. Really cool. But when I was doing the wiring test, now the cool thing about the 5-way switch, I remember actually doing it. I got everything set up, and I didn't even have a guitar. I just had it set up on my little coffee table in my living room of my old flat, and I'm there plugging everything in. I was like, what on earth are you doing? What? I'm doing a wiring test. I literally was able to wire everything up outside of the guitar and do a little tap test with my screwdrivers. the second that I pulled that gain boost pot up, you could hear my screwdriver when I was like that far away from the pickup, and my brain just started ticking. I'm like, oh my god, this would be so cool, kicking this in just before a guitar solo. And eventually I did switch out the Seymour Duncans, the Room Explorer, for the EMGs. This was just more of an aesthetic kind of thing. It looked good having EMG, Seymour Duncan, EMG, but it was just more satisfying to have Seymour Duncan, Seymour Duncan, Seymour Duncan. And it still sounds as amazing as when I had the EMGs in it. Now, I'm going to continue on with the slideshow from all the hardware test fits.
So I installed all the pickups into the gold surrounds, put the bridge in to mark out the positioning, installed the volume and tone, double checked the switch slot, and then I moved on to the nut, truss rod cover and machine heads, which were new to me as they were the lock-in version. Here we have all the parts actually installed on the front of the body, and the tremolo cavity and strap blocks were installed on the back. The control cover wasn't sitting flush, as you'll see here. This is due to the PC board and the 5-way switch. This was my wiring test of the afterburner with the control knobs installed. Looks relatively normal. And then, boom, here comes 20 decibels of extra gain. The control cavity itself is a very, very tight fit. I did swap the afterburner into the middle as it worked a lot better. Then I returned back to the headstock, fully installed the truss rod cover, nut and machine heads, which you will notice in a second. I did strip the original screws. Thankfully, I was able to replace them and still use these machine heads. Here's where things went wrong. I was certain I had the positioning for the bridge right, but as you can see, I didn't. It's completely off. So, here's where the strings should have been, and here's where the strings were. Thankfully, I was able to fill the holes, drill them again in the right place, as you'll see at the bottom of the bridge there, and I was able to do a test play. I was so happy with how it sounded. One thing you can't really tell is the output jack. The stock one was never going to fit in this, so I had to replace it with a gold telecup style one.
Well, when I got the bridge in the right place, there was another issue. I stupidly put the tremolo mount claws a little bit too far down, so the tremolo system never really worked. When I did a test play on it, if I touch that winding bar in any way, shape or form, the springs would pop out and everything would just go messed up. So at this point I decided, let's just put a hardtail top loading bridge on. Cool thing was though, I got to use the tremolo cavity as a battery cavity. As you've seen from the wiring of the control cavity, ain't no way in hell I was getting that in there. So this one fit a lot better. And I've not had any experience trying to route anything, so my idea was to put a battery box, but it never came to light doing that. My first plan with this kit was to do a 3-colour burst stain finish, so it would be yellow in the centre, faded out into green, and then the green fading out into purple, which I thought would look really cool. Only problem, body's really small. And I did notice obvious join lines, so I decided against doing this type of finish, so I went with a solid finish instead.
Once everything was masked off, I got the whole guitar primed, and as you can see here, I did mask off the neck so that I could add a natural oil finish. Then I added the purple. To say this was a cheap Wilco's brand rattle can paint, I was blown away by the colour of it. I slowly built up the coats until it was all even, and then I added the gloss clear coat. Unlike my first kit build, I didn't put any clear coat on the back before laying it on the cloth, and it was a flat cloth, not a textured one. Did this so that I could build up the coverage on the front a lot more, and I was really happy with how it came out. I eventually got this guitar back when I moved into this house and the lacquer had fully cured. It was at this point I noticed it could stand up on its own with everything installed. So it meant I got some really good photos. Here you can see the natural neck that I was going to oil finish, and I was so proud and so happy with the back of the headstock transition.
After seeing how it looked under the purple gloss finish, the natural neck that I was going to oil stain, and then the gold hardware on top, it just really popped, and I was in awe. And just by chance, though, one day, scrolling through Amazon for spray paints, they kept recommending stuff to me. I came across a product called Plasti Dip Chameleon Turquoise and Silver. This was a colour changing paint that you'll soon see actually turns purple rather than silver. It's best applied over black paint, and after doing a test paint job on a spare neck, I had to add it to this guitar.
As this is applied best over black paint, I covered the whole guitar, including the neck this time. This was the first finish work I'd done in my new shed, and seeing it colour shift was insane. As you can tell, it definitely is more purple than silver shift, and I added it to the entire guitar, left it for a few days before adding the clear coat. Now, some of the photos don't show the colour shift very well, but you will be able to see on the back of the neck and the body a very slight difference. Unfortunately, at the time, the lighting wasn't the greatest for these photos, but I did notice once I got to the clear coat, this is where you could really see it. So you can see the colour shift here on the headstock slightly, and then when you see it at a different angle, you might be able to just see it there. And this is the point where I added the clear coat, so you might be able to pick it up a lot more on this particular photo here, as I managed to get the angle and the lighting right for this one. Now, as my shed was not watertight at this point, I mean, you can see all the building materials behind it, I did bring the guitar into my guitar room whilst it cured, and as soon as it had cured, I started to rebuild it. All the electronics were installed, along with some really cool inlay stickers, which actually tied in pretty well. I got a local company to engrave my truss rod cover with SBH II. Now, this photo really shows the colour shift off, but it also shows a lot of orange peel. Managed to work the controls out, so it was master volume, afterburner, and master tone, which works so well. You'd never know there was an afterburner until the push-pull part was activated. I installed the bridge and got everything set up, and the one thing that I didn't actually do before doing the finish was plug the original screw holes, but there were a lot of things still wrong with this guitar, so it wasn't worth doing that. And however, on this photo here, you will be able to see the colour shift really well.
This guitar was taken apart for one major issue that would not stop irritating me. As you may have seen through this entire process, from when I did the test installs and the full installs of the pickups, the cavities are routed ever so slightly off center, so they're like this. And it was very obvious and very apparent once the guitar was all built. Now, in preparation for Great Guitar Build Off, I have learned that this may have happened because the template was off center when they routed them. Also, the finish had a lot of orange peel. So I've never buffed out a finish, and trying to learn how to do it by guys online, it was really intimidating, mainly because of the prospect of potentially, going through the finish onto my paint. I don't want to have to redo all that paintwork. So I never buffed it out, so it was a lot of orange peel. It never really fully cured from the feel of it. It was still very sticky. even though eventually it did cure before I put anything on there. There was another issue. I probably said a lot of issues here, but there's a few things I know was wrong with this when I was finished. When I plucked the high E string open, it sounded like a sitar string. I was like, that's not normal. So I started doing research online, and it turns out that the nut slots on this Graphtec nut may have been a little bit too short, which was causing this issue. From installing this onto another guitar, I definitely know it's the nut, not the guitar itself. But one thing I will do, because I still have the guitar here, is I will try and show the colour shift finish on it now. Sometimes in photos you don't really get the full effect. So I'm hoping, I mean you can see it there, I'm just going to slowly bring it across. You can see that colour shift in there. And then same again there. And this looks completely different to me because obviously I'm at a different angle to yourselves. But it just looks so cool. I really want to redo this finish. And I'm hoping, there we go. So headstock, you can see the colour shift on that. And same there. Also, one thing I didn't really detail was these cool little inlays just there. Sorry, it's completely unscripted this, trying to figure this thing out. It's quite fun. Anywho, let's try and get this back without wrecking everything. There we go. That was a bit of fun. And that's the story of my second guitar kit build that became known as SBH II. As you can tell by me showing that guitar just, can't really do a sound demo because it's taken apart. The parts themselves have been donated to other guitars that I own, and the pickups, aside from these single coil Seymour Duncan, are in other guitars, so you will be able to get to hear how those sound, but obviously I never recorded myself playing this one. But obviously all those are future videos. As always though, my social links are down in the description below. Feel free to follow me on there. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. That's all from me in this one, so I'll see you in the next.